Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Before I proceed with today's episode, I think it is only responsible for me to give out a trigger warning about the content and the topics I'm going to talk about. In this episode, I'm going to discuss topics such as terrorism and terrorist attacks, death, and the emotional warfare that occurs after almost becoming a victim of a brutal massacre. So, if you think that these topics are triggering and are perhaps too heavy for you, by all means, feel free to turn this episode off and maybe go back and listen to one of my old ones. I will give you a few seconds now to turn off this episode if you have decided to do so. And please take care of yourself, guys. And I will see you soon. For those of you who stayed, hello. Today's episode will be different than the ones we've had before. It is going to be more vulnerable as I share with you the very human feeling of fear. Fear that was instilled in me, and fear I'm afraid will always and forever live in me to a certain extent. Because what would've, could've, and should've has marked me for life, and I don't mean to dramatize, but I think that this is a pretty expected reaction to the events I went through. I will try my best to stay as rational and calm as possible, because even though some time has already passed, every now and then I fall into this emotional ditch of sorrow and fear, and I don't want to bring you there with me. It is my own ditch, which, even though it wasn't dug up by me, has become a place I was exiled to. And I feel like I can get out of there by myself. I just need time. I need to be given the privilege of time and patience, and I'm sure I can get out of this ditch and make it a field of flowers. So, without further ado and unnecessary metaphors, in today's episode, I want to share with you what I'm seeing both as my death and also as my rebirth. In particular, I want to talk about the cancellation of the Vienna shows of Taylor Swift's Eras tour. I kept it a secret from you guys because I wasn't ready to let you know, but I was personally affected as I was supposed to attend the first of the 3 nights in which the tour was going to take place in Vienna. The night in which the attack was supposed to take place is when I was supposed to be at the concert. I know it has taken me a bit of time to speak on the matter, but the possibilities of what could have happened really shook me to my core and turned my world and my perceptions upside down. And it has taken me some time to gather my thoughts in a way that would do my emotions justice. It took me time to come to terms with the reality I live in, the reality we all live in. It took me some time to be able to grasp the amount of hatred and evil, be it targeted or not, that live in this world. And while I'm still struggling to cope with the emotional repercussions that I'm facing, I think now is the right time to speak up. Now, because I'm still angry, still sad, still scared, but also extremely grateful. Now that I have finally had the opportunity to assess the situation and look at it from multiple different angles and be able to establish a clearer mental perception, I can talk. I feel like it is only right for me to speak on it only when I had cleared my head so that I can make calm and rational statements and statements which portray exactly the way I feel to this day. I know that this topic has been widely covered in the media, and maybe a lot of people are tired of hearing about it day in and day out. But I think that this is a topic we should never let die, no pun intended. I think we should listen to the stories of the people who were affected, learn about compassion from each other, and try to not discredit anyone's feelings and experiences. Because even though the attacks did not happen, that does not mean that they were not going to. And in turn, that does not mean that we were all going to get our lives miraculously spared. At the very last second, nonetheless. And that is a traumatizing experience that I know a lot of people are not able to put into perspective, which is why I will try to explain to you the thoughts that circulate the mind of one of the affected and the aftermath of it all. Because I was supposed to die on the 8th of August, but I didn't. But let's take it step by step. I just want you to know that even though I'm trying to be rational, every now and then emotions take over me. And it is still very difficult for me to talk about in detail about what happened. So please be patient. Please show me grace. I'm trying. I'm very much aware that the topic has received a lot of media attention in the last month, and it is still receiving a lot of media attention, be it to a lesser extent. But I think that hearing personal stories is also important. And which is why it is only justified for me to explain what happened and what was supposed to happen from a news perspective and from a personal perspective. And the way I want to share this with you is through the way I personally got to experience it. The way I personally got to experience the news, and the way I personally got to experience the cancellation and the aftermath. But to do this, we need to go back further than August the 7th or the 8th. Last year, in July, 2 of my friends received a pre-sale code for the Eras store. One for Amsterdam and the other for Vienna. I was waitlisted, so all I could do was wait for them to do their thing. And while my friend who had a code for Amsterdam could not get us tickets because they sold out very fast, my friend who got the pre-sale code for Vienna successfully secured us 3 general admission tickets for the 8th of August 2024. We were naturally overjoyed, and from that moment on, I started saving up money for the 2 trips I was going to take. My Rome trip that I already shared with you in detail, and then my Vienna trip. And I wasn't mentioning those trips to everyone. I was only sharing them, and in particular the Vienna one, with a handful of my closest people, because I am very superstitious. And I feel like if I share my plans with someone before they are in motion or before I've completed them, something bad can happen. Well, little did I know, I guess. This experience is making me rethink my entire superstition belief system, but let's put this to the side for a second. Let's circle back to the emotional build-up before the concert. I was feeling very nervous for a lot of reasons, all of which justified eventually. Well, they were just justified, even though in the moment of the emotion, I didn't necessarily understand where they were stemming from. Let's start with the accommodation. After a few months of going back and forth, trying to find accommodation that fit my budget because I was the one who was on a tightest budget, my friends and I finally booked an Airbnb to stay at in Vienna, which was further away from the stadium than we had hoped for, but at least we had a secured roof over our heads, which was nice because a few months before the concert, if you would go on a website to try and look for accommodation, you would get a push notification with a warning that for that period of time, Taylor Swift will be there and the prices were fluctuating a lot and everything was getting booked within seconds. And Vienna is normally on the more expensive side. But now, with this, it was something outrageous. Gotta love capitalism. Anyways, but we did book eventually the Airbnb, and just things were finally falling into place, and I was starting to feel a bit calmer and calmer as we were logistically figuring things out. Until 2 weeks before we were supposed to be in Vienna, I received an email from Airbnb that our reservation has been cancelled. And it has been cancelled because the apartment was no longer available. We got no explanation and we got no compensation. I mean, we did get our money back, which is the least they could have done, but still, we were ruthless. So what Airbnb did was offer us things in a relatively close geographical proximity to the original accommodation that we had booked that had just been canceled. And the prices, because it was 2 weeks prior to the concert, had skyrocketed. They were literally now triple the price of the already pumped up for the concert price. And I personally was fully ready to cancel my flights and resell my ticket because I just couldn't afford to pay the cheapest, being 350 euros per night for a stay somewhere. Get a grip of yourself. Do those people even know the price of money? Do they know how much money 350 euros is per night? Babe, that's a month's rent. So I was on the verge to put my hands in the air and give up on everything, which now in retrospect, I'm seeing as a yet another sign that something or someone was looking out for me and was trying to prevent me from going to Vienna. But then, after talking to a friend of mine who I was visiting at the time of the cancellation, we found let's call it a loophole. We found a loophole for us to still go to the concert and make it far more affordable than it was originally going to be. So my friend, the one I was visiting, suggested that we stay in Bratislava and just travel by bus to Vienna because the trip is just an hour. And it took a bit of effort to convince my friends initially that this is our best option. And eventually that is exactly what we did. We booked an apartment in Bratislava, which ended up being half the price of the Viennese Airbnb that we had originally booked. And the budget traveler in me was beyond happy. Because now, not only was I going to stay within the limits of my post-Italy budget, but also I was going to visit 2 countries in one go. And while I have been to Vienna before, even though it was just a day trip, I had never before been to Slovakia. So we booked everything and we sorted everything out logistically. And after this, I just got the chance to untie one of the many knots in my stomach. But the closer the day to my departure was approaching, the more I was starting to feel nervous. And at the time, I thought it was irrational stress, but after everything that went down and everything that was supposed to go down, I feel like it was just me sensing that something isn't necessarily okay. Because I have traveled a fair share in my lifetime. And I was starting to get nervous about going on the plane, about being on the bus to the airport. I was just sensing stuff and feeling fear I hadn't felt in forever. And no matter how much I was trying to rationalize myself and tell myself that I have flown before, I would just not stop stressing. So the day of my trip to Vienna comes, the 7th of August, and I feel a pit in my stomach that I hadn't felt since when I hadn't even felt that type of stress even when I was moving countries. Even when I first flew to the Netherlands, having not been to the Netherlands before. I couldn't explain why I was feeling the way I was feeling, but I was terrified. I didn't even want to listen to Taylor Swift music on my way to the airport. I just wasn't feeling the vibe. I wasn't excited. I was nervous. And usually I have a difficult time differentiating between the two, between excitement and nervousness. But now I was convinced. I knew it was nervousness. But I was trying to paint my nervousness as excitement because I was like, oh no, I've just been desensitized and I'm just like overwhelmed. That's all. I'm excited. I wasn't. I was nervous. And all the intrusive thoughts I would have would simply prevent me from feeling joy in any capacity. And I don't know why, but my immediate thoughts were when I got on the bus and there was no going back, I was like, oh no, I forgot my travel insurance policy at home. And it is a policy that you need to have with you at all times when traveling for it to be valid. And it is a type of insurance which will transport your body if you died while abroad. And if you're alive, you can get urgent medical care anywhere that the insurance covers. And mine was on a European level, so Austria naturally was included. And I was just thinking about the transportation of the dead body throughout my entire bus ride, and I could not explain why my mind would naturally go there. I don't know, but I tried to convince myself that I am okay and I will be okay even without my insurance. So I just said to myself, well, I won't need my insurance because everything will go okay. Nothing bad can happen. Nothing can go wrong. I am going to the Arose store and will have the time of my life, having fun with my friends and visiting new places, meeting new people, overall very exciting stuff. Can you already notice the pattern of the universe sending me signal after signal after signal that I should immediately go home and that I should not go to Vienna? But me, being the stubborn person I am, I was just refusing to listen to those signs. I could recognize them, but I was avoiding them. Because what could go wrong? I am literally going somewhere with my friends to experience the epitome of girlhood in a concert form. That is supposed to be a fairy tale, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Again, little did I know. And the signs just simply would not stop. Because the more you try to resist the universe, the harsher it gets about implementing its plan. And I go to the airport, and as I reach my gate, they delay my flight with an hour, and then half an hour more, and then a bit more. And then when we finally get on the plane, it takes us 30 minutes to take off. It is as if the universe did not want me to physically get to Vienna. Even my buses that I took to the airport were late, and I had to wait for the next ones to arrive, so it was like very on the brink of me missing everything. It was just everything started off on the wrong foot. But I didn't think much of it because, as I have previously shared with you, I don't have the easiest times now, usually when it comes to traveling, and usually everything that can go wrong does. So, about the travel aspect of it all, I was just thinking that this is a normal travel day for me. I, now looking back, recognize that it is a bit harsher than usual, and with a reason. Also, when I got to Vienna, my friends and I missed our bus to Bratislava and had to wait an hour for the next one. Basically, it was a very stressful trip, and I thought that this is why I was feeling that fear that I was feeling. I explained the pit in my stomach with all the things that had gone wrong that day. Little did I know that it was my intuition yet again trying to protect me. And little did I realize that it was God, the universe, karma, faith, or whatever you believe in that was trying to prevent me from going to Vienna. Because there I was supposed to lose my life. And my family sending me away to have fun, and me saving money and looking forward to this event for a year, getting my outfits ready, and me and my mom making more than 40 friendship bracelets all of this could have turned into a terrible nightmare. At least on my way to Vienna, I met a lot of Swifties at the airport, and we talked and exchanged friendship bracelets, so that was really cute, and perhaps the only positive thing that happened during the traveling, apart from not crashing and dying, of course. Anyways, so let's fast forward a few hours. It is now the 9th of the 7th. My friends and I are already in Bratislava, having already checked in, showered, had dinner, and the sort. The place was really comfortable and clean, and the first thing I said was how I can imagine myself living in such an apartment. We had to rent 2 rooms because they didn't have a triple room, so I shared a bed with one of my friends, and the other one was on her own. And I'm really happy we stayed in Bratislava and in that exact accommodation as well, because it was our shelter during that time of uncertainty, and it was a shelter in which I felt protected. It was really accommodating, and if I'm to go to Bratislava again, I would stay there again, totally. It was super close to the train station, the main train station, and you know how we have previously discussed that train stations are more dangerous than, Gotham City? That wasn't the case there. Actually, Bratislava felt extremely safe as a city, and the way I saw it, it was a yassified Sofia. You could definitely feel the Slavic, but also the Western European. So it felt like it was back home, but also with a beautifying filter on. So, anyways, we are checked in, done and ready. And the night was still young because we arrived relatively early, and it was still early in the evening, which is why I decided that I want to go out and wander around a bit. And I did it by myself because my friends were too tired from all the traveling they had done. And since I had already traveled by myself, I didn't see any problem in me just going out alone. Especially when I so wanted to do it. Because if I had to stay inside because we quote unquote must stick together at all times, I would have grown resentment towards them. Which is why I'm happy that my friends were okay with me just going and doing my thing and them doing their thing and us just getting together at a certain point and doing our thing. I just wanted to go out and see the Bratislava castle that night. I just wanted to see it in the dark because I knew they would light it up, or at least I would suppose they would, and it would just look very pretty. And I knew I wasn't going to have the opportunity to see it in the night because our original plan was to walk around until noon in Bratislava, then go to Vienna for the concert, come back after it, which would have been around midnight-ish or even 1. And then our idea was to spend the day after the concert wandering around in Vienna. And the day after that, we were leaving. So we originally hadn't planned much to do in Bratislava because we weren't expecting to be spending any time there but bedtime. Little did we know. So I'm walking around, enjoying the city. Beautiful city, by the way. Definitely underrated. It has a lot, or let's say it has enough to offer. It is literally the cleanest place I have ever seen, and for a capital city, it is strangely quiet. I would definitely recommend going to Bratislava. I am happy that after all I got to experience it. It wasn't originally on my bucket list, and I didn't have any expectations, which is why I think I was so happy with it, because it simply could not disappoint me. And it really didn't. So, shout out Bratislava. I think a great travel and also vacation destination. But let's circle back to the Era store. So, after I visited the castle, I started heading back to the accommodation, and on my way there, I was texting my Slovak friend, an old colleague of mine, and perhaps the biggest Swiftie I personally know. I was asking her for tips about what to do, what to eat, and what to avoid. And then she tells me, wait, let me pull out the messages to read them for you. So I ask her if there's any food I must try, and she answers, and she asks me for how long I'm staying in Slovakia. And I say, on Saturday, and I quote, on Saturday, I'm flying back to Bulgaria from Vienna. I came for the Taylor concert, but they canceled my Airbnb in Vienna, and that is why we're staying here. Honestly, I cannot believe how much I'm loving it so far. It is so peaceful and clean and organized. And then my friend says, and mind you, this conversation is taking place at 11 p.m. and I'm already a 15-minute walk from my accommodation. And once I reach it, I'm going immediately to bed because I was planning on having an early morning to do some sightseeing and then get ready for the concert. So I know nothing about what is going on in the world because I wasn't using my phone. When I'm out by myself in a foreign country, I don't use my phone. Let's just say it, as a woman, it is not the safest thing to just put your headphones on in a city you don't know and just be unaware of your surroundings, which is why I had no headphones. I hadn't used my phone in a couple of hours, and I was just enjoying the ambiance without having any idea what is going on online. So I knew nothing, and I suspected nothing. And my friend texted me, and I quote, "Yeah, they also canceled the concerts I saw just now because of the attacks." And I read this, and I'm like, is there another concert that she's talking about? What attacks is she talking about? Did they cancel Taylor's concerts, but the concerts in Vienna or the ones in London, because after Vienna she was supposed to play in London and then close off the European leg of the tour. So I was just confused. So I just text her, wait, what? Attacks? And then she proceeds to tell me that the Vienna Eras Tour shows, have been cancelled because of a planned terrorist attack. And then she sends me a screenshot of Taylor Nation, which is the Instagram account of Taylor's management, just the brand that Taylor Swift is, not the person, but the brand. So she sends me a screenshot of Taylor Nation's Instagram story, which confirms that the shows have been cancelled because of the uncovering of plans which were regarding a terrorist attack that was supposed to happen at the concert. Let that sink in. I will give you 2 seconds to comprehend what I just said, because I read this and I just froze. I read this, I saw my phone, and I just stopped in the middle of the street and was trying to process. Like, I could feel the wheels in my brain turn and nothing was making sense. Because to say that I was in a shock would be an understatement. And then I tell my friend that I had no idea, and she starts apologizing because she didn't know that I didn't know, and she didn't want me to find out like this. But I'm so happy I found out then and there from her, because I wasn't using Instagram. I told you I wasn't using my phone. And like at that time, I had deactivated my Instagram in particular. So I didn't know. And my friends were asleep, and no one texted me because they also didn't know. So the way it would have played out had my friend not texted me is I would have gone to our accommodation. I would have gotten ready for bed, and we would have all woken up in the morning. We would have all got up in the morning to the news that the concerts have been canceled because of the potential attack. And what terrible news to wake up to, am I right? So we would have gone to bed with the idea that we are seeing Taylor in a couple of hours, only to wake up to such scary and shaking news. So what I do is, as I found out, I immediately texted my friends, but they were asleep and nobody was responding. And I shamelessly pressed the notify anyway button, because you cannot be sleeping through this kind of news, especially when it's regarding your own life. And after that, I immediately called my mom because I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to react. And if I could go back in time and change one thing, I would not call her right there and then, because it was already midnight in Bulgaria. She was trying to rest, but she's my go-to person, and I didn't think about all the stress and fear she would go through when I gave her the news. So if I could go back in time, I would let myself calm down and then call her, because me panickingly calling her isn't doing any one of us a favor. But also, I wanted her to learn about this from me and not from the news, because if she found out from the news and she hadn't heard from me, she would have freaked out. But the thing is, I was just struggling to come to terms with the reality. Not because of the cancellation, but because of the reason behind the cancellation. Because, okay, so thankfully, such big attacks do not happen on the daily. And when they occur, they are a world-changing event. And the thing is, because nothing like this could ever cross my mind, as something I could potentially do, I kind of project my own decisions on the rest of the world population. Because in my mind, I would never think that someone could be a terrorist, that someone might be out there to unalive people, because I would never do it. I'm just sometimes ignorant in the sense that I think that just because I will not harm others, others will not harm me. And another thing, considering the way I was brought up and the social mentality of the place I was brought up in, I never think that I could potentially be one of the affected from an event of such a scale. Because when such events happen, events from that level of evil and logistics, they happen somewhere far away. Maybe it is not a bad thing that Bulgaria is forgotten by the world. God, I hope I don't manifest anything. I will just pray for Bulgaria's safety. But what I'm trying to say is that especially when you grow up in an environment that is so safe, you forget that there is actual life-threatening danger of that sort around the corner. And I'm so privileged to have grown up in such a place where I don't have to think about terrorism on such a level or mass killings on a regular basis. And it's just, I don't know, thank God, knock on wood, everybody. But I sometimes forget that the real world, globally, is not as safe as my little tiny corner of it. And I don't know the world the way I know my hometown. Because of course there are and have been incidents in my hometown and in Bulgaria as a country as well. But I cannot remember in my lifetime something on such a level. And hopefully I and everyone else after me don't get to experience it. Hopefully like the evil somehow perishes from this world because it is unnecessary. And because the concept of this is so foreign to me and it is now my real immediate life, it was just hard to grasp that it was real. It was hard to wrap my head around the fact that such danger exists and that nothing is guaranteeing me protection from it. I hope I made it clear enough. I don't want to imply that I'm living in this bubble, disconnected from the real world. I'm not trying to portray Bulgaria as the perfect, safest heaven on earth. It is just that when you have only experienced things through a screen and not offline, you can potentially forget that they could also affect you. So it is a disconnection from reality, but it is one that is based not on ignorance so much as on your actual immediate environment that you live in. I really hope that makes sense. I really don't mean to say that I am untouchable and indestructible, or I'm not trying to discredit the realness of events like that one. I don't mean to say that I don't feel empathy when experiencing something even only through a screen, but it is just a different experience. It affects you differently when you come face to face with the situation. After that, I called my best friend and she tried to calm me down and put things into perspective for me. And you know what is really interesting? The second I read the message that the concerts have been cancelled, the pit in my stomach immediately disappeared. I felt such relief and I felt such gratitude because for the first time in my life, I felt my body in the way that I felt in that moment. In a way that reminded me that I am alive. I had not received any information about the attack, and I didn't know if it was true or not, if the concert has actually been cancelled or not. I couldn't comprehend what was going on, but I just know, and I remember how when I heard that the concert is not going to take place, things fell into place. The universe was relieved, the universe was happy, and I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel disappointment. I felt gratitude to be alive. I had finally received the message from my intuition and from that higher power that was looking over me. Because I was protected. And I felt peace knowing that I and everyone else who was going to go to that concert will live to see another day. I was going to live to see my family, my dogs, my friends, because no matter how much I wanted to go, no matter all the logistical nightmares I had to go through to get there, no matter all the money and energy I had invested in that event for over a year, I was alive. My life and the lives of thousands of other people were spared. And that was all that mattered. And to this day, that is still all that matters. And I believe that looking forward, this is the only thing that will always and forever matter. Because I would much rather feel bummed out about missing a concert, but at least I am alive to feel bummed out. Also, it was a really interesting experience, the grieving of the concert and of what would have, could have, and should have happened because of all the aspects that went into that grief. And some of those aspects I hadn't even anticipated. And I would have never guessed that facing death and being spared would affect me in such a way. But I'd say let's leave the unpacking of all the raw emotions for the next episode, because I want to do them the justice they deserve, and I'm getting a bit overwhelmed talking about this for so long right now because it is still very triggering. So I want to take a breather and collect myself, collect my thoughts again, and just be able to provide you with a fuller overview of what I went through emotionally the days after the concerts, especially the days after what was supposed to be my death day. Now, you know what a roller coaster it was leading up to the concert, not knowing what was going to happen. Just imagine what it was like, and at times still is, now that I know what could have potentially happened. It is a net of emotions that takes over me, and untying it is difficult. So let's do it once I have rested and I'm ready to face my thoughts and emotions and express them. Until then, I thank you for listening to today's episode. Stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye!